5 victims so far. Transported to Grady, at least 4 victims, rather, excuse me, 4 victims taken to Grady Memorial Hospital. 1 person died on the scene. 5 victims total. 5 people injured. We believe all with gunshot wounds. We know at least 1 a confirmed gunshot wound, but a total of 5 people injured in this active shooter situation. Again, the suspect still at large, still on the run. That's why police have cordoned off about a 4-block area there in West Midtown to make sure he doesn't get very far. Not too long ago, we did see some serious police activity of officers in SWAT gear heading into a building. Again, as you mentioned, speculation, but hopefully they have this person cornered somewhere in one of those many buildings. Maybe that suspect ducked into a condo to try and get out of the way, to try and get out of police view. Hopefully they have that person cornered. Let's go back down to our colleague Patrick Quinn. He's at street level right now, speaking to a lot of people on the ground, gathering new information. Patrick, what have you learned?
Well, right here on, we're right by Peachtree, and we're seeing a SWAT team right here. They're flying a drone right now. I'm told they also just searched a roof right here in the area of one of these office buildings. I'm looking at an office building right now where I'm seeing a line of people just looking out of their glass windows at the scene here, and we're about a block from the High Art Museum. We're going to try and get you a shot, but this really just shows how active this situation is right now, how many people are still trying just to get a better sense of, is it safe to leave? A guy just walked out, he said, can I go get lunch right now? I said, I don't think so. A lot of this is blocked off. So this is a very active scene right now. This unit right in front of us, this special operations unit, this is who was flying a drone earlier just to get eyes in the sky of this area, but very much an active situation here, and a lot of people still trying to figure out. This unit here is leaving as we speak, clearing the area, maybe to suggest that it is safe in this specific area. We're going to continue to watch things here. Tracy, back to you.
All right, Patrick, thank you. And just to give us some perspective, this is making national news right now. This is not how we here in Atlanta wanted to be on the news today, but a number of people calling loved ones, making sure. Ellen, I just got a text from a good friend. She's saying, are you okay? Are you safe? Knowing that we are not far from where this is all happening in Midtown Atlanta. Certainly contact your loved ones. Make sure they are sheltering in place. If they work or live in Midtown Atlanta, make sure to tell them to avoid this area until we all get the all clear that everyone can go back, until police have detained this active shooter suspect. Once again, the most important thing we need you to look at today, you will see it on all your social media channels, no doubt, images of the suspected shooter. Producers, if we could put that up once again, that would be great to see. We wanted to see this person here. These are the images Atlanta police have released to us. You can't really see this person's face, but maybe, you know, the stature of the body there, maybe the way he's standing, that will possibly, you know, give you an indication of who this could be. A better image right here of the shooting suspect in the elevator without the mask on. Appears to be wearing a gray hoodie, black pants with some kind of a backpack, wearing a white mask. Again, police are asking you, if you see this person, do not approach them. Call 911. He is still believed to be armed and dangerous. Right now, 5 total victims in this active shooter situation. We believe all 5 of them suffering from gunshot wounds. We do know 1 person has died out of those 5 victims. We do have a crew headed to Grady Memorial Hospital right now. As we know, anything major happens, Grady is a level 1 trauma center. Shootings, burns, any kind of major trauma to your physical body, they can handle there. That's what they do. They save lives there. That's where those victims have been transported today. Here's a live look right now from our Atlanta News First chopper, giving you a look, you know, where the Google building is. You can see it certainly right off the downtown connector. A huge, heavy police presence there in Midtown Atlanta. A map for you to look at. If you have to travel back to go home, to your condo, to your apartment, or to your office building. Right now, again, police have not given the all clear, but keep in mind, this is the perimeter. These are the areas that are closed off right now. Avoid streets near Northside Medical Center. That is the center, the focus of this active shooter investigation. Also, avoid West Peachtree Street Northwest between 10th and 14th Streets. We do have crews on the ground right there gathering more information. Let's get out to Zach Summers. Zach, you have some new information for us?
Well, I will tell you, Tracy and Alan, that phones in this area just started going off. The emergency alert, it's from Atlanta Police Department. It reads active law enforcement situation in the area of West Peachtree Street between 12th and 13th Street. They're asking anyone in the area to, as they secure the building, to shelter in place until further notice. The suspect, a black male wearing a gray hoodie, black pants, and brown shoes. So again, police asking folks to shelter in place until further notice, which would indicate that they are still looking for this person. That's an emergency alert that just went out to phones in this area just within the last minute or so. I'll show you the scene here. It would appear that things have calmed down a bit, but you just heard me read that alert, so we just simply don't know. But you still see a heavy police activity or force out here as we are anticipating to hear from Atlanta Police Department very soon. We were told that they would be talking with us here where we are. So we are anticipating new information from Atlanta Police about this situation that we have been told happened inside Northside Medical. We heard from several people today, folks who were just eating at a restaurant nearby and were told that they could not leave because of what was happening inside the medical center. We heard from patients very briefly who were shaken and crying as they were being escorted from this building, as they were only told there's an active shooter inside. We have to get you to safety. And just from the moment that we got out here, an hour and a half, now 2 hours, it just was a scene that, you know, we haven't really seen here in Atlanta in the 2 years that I've been here. I think of, you know, when an officer was shot last summer, a couple of blocks away, we saw a heavy police presence. But nothing like this. I mean, this is multi-agencies out here, and the perimeter is quite wide in terms of them not letting people in this area. Really, from 10th to 15th, between Peachtree and West Peachtree, just avoid the area because police have blocked off those streets, and there's really no way to get around as we wait to hear an update on if they've caught this active shooter or they continue to look for this active shooter. But again, as I read that emergency alert that went out just a couple of minutes ago, police are asking people to continue to shelter in place until further notice. Tracy and Alan, as I mentioned, we are waiting on an update from Atlanta Police Department. We've been told that they will be speaking to us very soon in this area, so we will bring that live once it happens. Back to you guys.
Yeah, and Zach, we're looking right now at the Atlanta News First Chopper, looking down on what obviously appears to be doctors in scrubs walking down the street here right outside of the medical center, and it looks like they're actually carrying a patient. Tracy, you see that woman? She's in socks, like she just came out of a hospital room.
In a patient gown.
Yeah, in a patient gown. And they're evacuating her on the street there, down the street. I'm not sure where exactly they're taking her, but obviously she's in a position where she needs to be moved from that hospital where there is a lockdown for most people. That woman there, they had to move her out of that hospital. Now, you heard us talking a little while ago, and we hope that woman gets the assistance she needs, about MARTA in the area. Our anchor Joy Limnakron right now is working on speaking to MARTA about what they're doing, because I believe the Arts Center station, the Arts Center MARTA station, a very popular station, literally right down the road from where this hospital is. And they actually just put out a statement here regarding what MARTA's doing in the city, and it reads that MARTA stations have not been shut down. We have deployed our tactical field officers and special operations response team officers to assist APD. We also have extra police presence in the stations to ensure the safety of our patrons. And the point with this one is, this is a needle in a haystack operation right now. Atlanta, a massive metropolitan area, and everybody is looking for one man. So when we show you what this gentleman looks like here in a little bit, and we tell you to keep an eye out, you might think at home, you know, what are the chances that I'm actually going to come across this man, that I'm actually going to be able to help APD in this search? You truly never know. The reason that you're getting those phone calls about your safety, the reason that we're telling you about what's happening is because this man could be anywhere right now. And if he is willing to open fire in a hospital of all places, you need to make sure that you and your loved ones are prepared and safe until Atlanta police can ensure that he is no longer a threat to our community.
And this really gives you an indication, Alan, of the severity of this. Earlier, we were able to see from a chopper video a number of people coming out of the hospital there. And I believe it was Zach Summers who spoke to someone who was nearby having lunch. And they said they were seeing people rolled out, in the hospital, kind of the rollers, taking patients out of the hospital to make sure they can get to safety. So it could possibly be, we haven't confirmed with Northside Medical Center yet, that they are making sure floor by floor they get patients and staff members to safety, maybe as they go floor by floor and search for this active shooter suspect. Again, these are images you're seeing on the right-hand side of your screen that Atlanta police have sent us to show you, so you are on the lookout for this person. Described as a black male wearing a gray hoodie, black pants, brown shoes. In some of these images, you can see him in a mask. That appears to be where he walked into some of the buildings, pulled his arm up, and with the gun fired inside that building. That is the image we're talking about there. It is haunting, chilling to see that. This image looks to appear to be from an elevator where he's not wearing a mask. You have a better look at his face. Again, do not approach this man if you see him. If you know who he is, call police. Call 911. Police believe he is armed and dangerous. Here's what else we know. In this vicinity, if we can show some of those live pictures once again, talking about Midtown Atlanta near 14th Street, West Peachtree Street, that vicinity, many of those buildings on lockdown. That includes Whole Foods. Certainly a very popular area this time of day in Midtown. A number of people living nearby go into Whole Foods, grab lunch, grab something for dinner. Whole Foods is on lockdown. More than likely it has been since all of this started to unfold. Taking a live look right now at what's going on 14th Street, on West Peachtree. Just a barrage of vehicles, medical emergency vehicles, fire trucks as well.
Good.
Crazy scene right now in Midtown Atlanta. I'm joined by my colleague, Rick Folbaum. Rick, I know you had to, navigate traffic to get here. Can't even imagine what that is like. But just thinking about, here we are once again in our nation in 2023, talking about gun violence. Zach spoke to some people leaving the medical center saying, you know what, it's happened again. I cannot live in fear. But this is frightening that it is happening in our city at this time.
Well, of course, it is a shock when you hear the news, but given the state of things, it really shouldn't be so surprising that this has come to Atlanta. This has come to our neighborhood. We've been watching and covering shootings all over the country, grieving along with our fellow Americans when we hear of these stories. And now it is the rest of the country that will be grieving with us, as we have already learned that one person is dead and 4 others are hurt. As we continue to watch these live pictures from Midtown, you mentioned I had to navigate my way into the office. Very difficult coming from my area, traveling south on the connector, trying to get off at 14th Street to get here, and I was able to see the police presence to my left. So in order to get to our offices, I made a right. I would not have been able to go over the bridge heading in the direction because this perimeter has been just completely blocked off. And there are a lot of people who live in this area, of course, in addition to the businesses, in addition to the hospital. There are a lot of apartment buildings, and we're hearing that people have been impacted. People who live in this area are getting emails from the management of their building saying that you and your visitors could have a hard time getting into the building right now during this active police situation. One of the emails coming out saying, telling residents at the Atlantic House in Midtown that residents will have normal access using your key fob, but at this time we are not allowing guests or visitors into the building. This is at the request of the Atlanta Police Department. Again, this is a management company of a residential apartment building not far from the scene, literally just across the street, actually, from the location where this is taking place. These are live pictures, and you can see the police presence there. Police there heavily armed and patrolling this area as they continue to search for this shooter. And I've been looking at the photographs that we've been airing, Tracy, as you've been showing them to our audience. And it has to, it occurred to me, somebody has to know who this is.
Yes.
I mean, especially that shot in the elevator where you can see him without the mask on. You can see the face very clearly. Someone here is going to recognize him, and hopefully that person is going to be able to assist police in helping to track this man down and prevent any further violence.
And when you have a large area like this, and yes, it is a very large area, those office buildings that people work in, high rises there, people live in, condos, apartments, spaces and restaurants to work in, it is a large area to cover. It appears as though police have a good handle on this. They have told us that so far no additional shots have been fired since the initial incident. Again, a total number of 5 victims. One of those victims unfortunately passed away. Those other 4 victims sent to Grady Hospital, Level 1 Trauma Center, where they are being treated, we believe, for gunshot wounds. We know at least one being treated for gunshot wounds. We do have our colleagues on the ground there, Zach Summers and Patrick Quinn. Let's head out to Patrick Quinn. I know he's been on the ground really gathering information, speaking to a number of people coming out of those buildings. Patrick, things look slightly calmer behind you now.
Slightly calmer, but we did just watch 2 officers just walk in with long guns closer to the scene, so very much still an active situation. I was able to talk with a nurse who just left Northside Medical. She was on the 2nd floor. From her understanding, they heard a thud, what they believe were shots in the moments right around noon, and she said she was one of the last floors that was just evacuated. She was very relieved to be able to go home. They weren't getting a lot of messages inside. She said it was just panic, just waiting, sitting there, hoping that they could leave soon. They believe that the shooting was actually happening a few floors above them. But I really do want to just set the scene of where we are. So, right, we're in Midtown. Right here is the Midtown MARTA station right here, one of them. And then if we continue to pan over, I'm going to have my photographer continue to pan over. An apartment building just about a block that way, that's where there was a shooting, an active shooter situation here in Midtown last year. So this is a very familiar panic that this community has gone through. And if you remember, in that active shooter situation, it took roughly an hour for officers to locate that individual, inevitably at the airport. And at this point, we still do not know where the active shooter is from this shooting here. 1 person we do know has died, 3 more injured, but we're in the heart of Midtown right now. And yes, while there is somewhat of a quiet sense right now, this is not over by any means. We're continuing to get directions from law enforcement on scene to move back, forth, left, right. We're seeing SWAT continue to check out different areas, and we'll continue to monitor things here on the ground. But I just really wanted to break down where we are and how familiar the situation is here for residents, for business owners, and for those who live and work in the area. Guys, back to you.
All right, Patrick, thank you. We did just get some new information, a statement from Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens. Of course, the nation is watching right now, and most of Atlanta really focused on Midtown. Here is what Mayor Andre Dickens is saying. I am in close contact with the Atlanta Police Department as they are responding to the active shooting situation in Midtown near 1100 West Peachtree. Those in the area should shelter in place. Follow Atlanta Police for updates. Stay tuned. And that is something on social media we are certainly following here. Atlanta Police sending us updates as quickly as they can. Of course, they are out there doing their job, trying to track down this active shooter. Once again, another live look down the roadway there in Midtown Atlanta. We can see ambulances on the scene, fire trucks as well, and a number of police vehicles. A heavy, heavy police response. Again, as I mentioned, the entire nation really watching us here in Atlanta and what's unfolding in Midtown. Rick.
I just want to remind everybody, because I was trying to remember the date myself, that that and we're just getting word, interrupting myself, that we're going to get a news conference from Grady Hospital, an update at 20 after the hour, so about 7 minutes or so from now. I was just remembering, we did have a shooter in Midtown. It was last summer.
Last August.
It was last August when a woman shot and killed 2 people and then wounded a third, only to be apprehended and arrested at the airport. So police, sadly, have run this drill before less than 12 months ago. And, you know, every time there is a situation like this, there are lessons that are learned. There are postmortems after operations when police will go over what went wrong, what went right. Obviously, that was a situation where police were able to quickly get the suspect in custody. And you have to think that they learned some lessons from that shooting last August that they're putting into play today as they look for this suspect. Again, the suspect not yet apprehended, still on the loose, but he has done a lot of damage, killing 1 person and hurting 4 others. And again, as we just announced, we're going to hear from Grady Hospital, where the injured have been taken. We are expecting a press conference from Grady, an update on those patients coming up in the next 5 minutes or so.
And Rick, as you mentioned, police have run this drill before not that long ago. And we have to keep in mind too, and we do a number of stories, this is a city filled with cameras. Cameras are everywhere, tracking, you know, moves. And we have a video integration center that Atlanta police use, and I've been inside that video integration center, and it's really unbelievable, the area that this covers. So you see street corners, especially in large populated areas like downtown and midtown as well. So no doubt we have officers in that video integration center right now looking to see if they can see that suspect on the sidewalk, on the roadway, going from point A to point B, and where that person may be now. And I do believe part of that was used in tracking down that suspect last August as well.
That's right.
When you think about it, you know, to go from Midtown Atlanta to get to the airport, you got to hit a lot of spots. And for police to be able to find that person in that instance last year, in a short amount of time, I think it was only about 4 or 5 hours, at least in that time.
Very impressive.
Right, very impressive. Unfortunately, that person didn't do any more damage beyond what happened there, and we are hoping that is the case in this instance. We do want to remind you once again to avoid the area here in Midtown. Here is a map and a look at the streets that are closed right now. Streets near Northside Medical Center, West Peachtree Street Northwest between 10th and 14th Street. As our crews were covering this story earlier this afternoon, they were pushed back block after block as police tried to widen that perimeter and secure that area and make sure they had control of everything and everyone within that area so they can try and track down that suspect. Now, if you're living in the area, you're watching us, you're listening to us, you are in the safest place you can be. Shelter in place, stay where you are. Avoid coming into Midtown to go back to your office. You may want to call. You may not be able to get back into your office anyway, into your apartment building, condo building. You may not be able to get back in there either. Many places are now on lockdown, including Goddard School. Goddard School is on lockdown in Midtown, no one in or out. Atlanta Public Schools, as they are sheltering in place in the Midtown area as well. So certainly call ahead because it is not likely you will be able to get through to Midtown.
Zach Summers has been following this story from the very beginning. He joins us now live, still on the ground on the scene. Zach, fill us in. What have you learned?
Yeah, you know, I think it's important to mention that they tell us they are still actively looking for this shooter, and they tell us that they are still actively looking for any other victims, which paints a very sad picture when you think about officers potentially walking floor to floor through the medical center, looking for any other possible victims as they continue to look for this shooter. This is a live look from 12th Street and West Peachtree here in Midtown Atlanta, the center of today's active shooting inside Northside Hospital. We had a chance to speak to patients earlier today as they were quickly being scurried out of the hospital, many of them crying, many of them angry, many of them confused by what was happening. These were folks who were simply going to doctor's appointments. And then to have something like this happen, we talked to a woman who was, in fact, on her way here to a doctor's appointment, and she had just missed all of this by 20 minutes. And she, was just disheartened by it, but also grateful that she was not inside and did not experience this firsthand. So, as I've said, there's a lot of emotion down here. We are waiting to hear from Atlanta police. We've been told that they're going to give us an update as to what happened out here as they continue to look for this this shooter. And we're going to walk here, and we were going to talk to this couple earlier. We saw them coming out of the hospital. Let's listen in.
Business, and then suddenly we saw the lady come from behind the counter and start locking the door inside the medical facility where we were. We were on the 9th floor, and as we heard more and saw it on television, they said the shooter was on the 11th floor, and we were on the 9th floor. So they asked us to move to the back, and we moved to a room in the back, and they secured us all in the back, just waiting for someone to kind of come and get us, and they asked us to shelter in place. So we just sheltered in place and followed directions. But we didn't really know what was going on until we saw the television, but we did hear some popping noise that we didn't know what the popping noise was, so originally we just ignored it and just kept waiting for my son was inside the procedure room, and Doris, were you in the procedure room? She was in the procedure room, and I was in the waiting area, so when we heard the popping, it was really nothing until we saw everyone locking doors and scurrying through the doctor's office, and then they put the television on. And we saw the breaking news on the television, and they mentioned that it was that address. So it was surprising that it was in the same building that we were in. Right?
And you mentioned hearing popping noise. Was it rapid fire? Was it a lot?
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. It was a few single popping. It just sounded like maybe someone's motorcycle backfired or something. But we could hear it out of the window, and then we heard fire engines driving. I looked out of the window of the 9th floor, and I could see fire engines moving. I could hear the sirens. But at that point, I had no idea what it was. We just thought something was going on outside.
What was that realization like for you, the moment that you realized there was an active shooter in your building?
For me, I immediately started thinking about the people that were around me, because there was a lot of nervousness, as you can imagine. The staff was scurrying everywhere, so I just wanted to make sure people stayed calm, because when things like this happen, a lot of times you can make it worse by just being too overactive. So we just kind of kept people calm. And everyone waited and started looking at their phones, trying to look for some type of indicator of what was going on. So fortunately, the headlines came on the TV pretty quick, and then we had a pretty good idea of what was going on. But we were really just trying to keep everyone in the medical office just calm, so that they didn't overreact. And the medical staff did a great job. They found a secure area in the back of the facility where we were on the 9th floor, and they moved us all in the back area and took care of us. So my applause to her. Got your son, Doris.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Did you not know that? Sir, did you not know that young woman?
No.
So, and you stayed with her?
Yes.
Why?
This is what we do, man. We're people. Yeah. They were nervous. She can't walk. She's in there with an MRI, and they shut down the elevators. So we were on the 9th floor. We had to walk down 9 flights of stairs. And she was walking with a cane, so we wasn't going to let her walk down the stairs by herself.
Yeah, and you said you were on the 9th floor. You were told the shooter's on the 11th floor.
Yeah.
What, did you ever fear for your life while you were up there?
No. No, you just got to try to keep your head. And there was no immediate threat to us. So the idea was to keep our head, make sure the immediate people around me, that they had their heads and we weren't overreacting and creating a more worse situation than it was. So I think the people were doing pretty good at keeping calm. But you can imagine what that environment was like in that medical center. Everyone getting messages, they're sending messages, they're hearing rumors, they're hearing this. So it worked out for the best, I guess, for that particular crew. Unfortunately, I heard that there were some people who got shot, and they eventually said they got shot on the 11th floor, so that heightened some of the anxieties, because we were thinking, okay, if they're on the 11th floor, we're only 2 floors down, so what's next? But the medical staff got us in a nice area back there, secured us, kind of put us away, so everything worked out for the best.
And as you were being escorted out of the building, can you kind of paint a picture of what you were seeing?
Yeah, I can tell you, no one came to get us at first, so we were waiting. And we looked across, and outside the door, it looked like all the other medical offices were vacant, so we were like the only ones left in there, it seems like. And then we heard the elevator door ding. And everyone who was sitting in the lobby, when we heard the elevator door ding, you could imagine there were some tense seconds there. And then all of a sudden the SWAT team just kind of jumped out of the elevator, and we saw it was the right people. So for a split second, when that elevator dinged, we didn't know who was coming off the elevator. And then the SWAT team came off the elevator, and they opened the door. They got everybody, pushed us to the stairwell, escorted us down the stairs. Yeah, it was intense. Yeah, a little bit intense. I could see the concern on a lot of people's faces. I'm a retired military person, so for me, my instincts were stay calm, think your way through it, make sure you can have a clear head in case we have to do anything to save ourselves. But there was some tense moments up there. There were some nervous people.
What's your name, sir?
KJ Johnson.
Thank you, KJ, and thank you for helping that woman.
Oh, my pleasure. We shouldn't have to be thankful for that, man. We're humans, and when you see people in need, that should be a natural instinct for us. And several people tried to reach out and help them, but I wanted them to go ahead and get out of the building, and I just stayed with her and make sure she got to safety.
Absolutely. Thank you, KJ.
Good.
Yeah, I think what really stuck with me is him recounting that moment when they're on the 9th floor and they hear the ding of the elevator. Can you imagine? I mean, you don't know who's coming off that elevator. Fortunately, it was SWAT who escorted him, and you saw the woman he was with earlier. He didn't even know that woman, but he saw that she was scared, so he took it upon himself to walk with her out of the hospital until her loved one grabbed her here at 12th and Peachtree. It's an incredible story of just people being people in such a stressful and scary environment. Tracy, Rick?
Yeah, know that he doesn't want to be called a hero, but certainly in that situation for that woman, I know for me, he would be my hero.
Absolutely.
Someone that doesn't know you, willing to take the time to make sure you was safe, in spite of their own safety.
We are waiting for a press conference at Grady Memorial Hospital that is about, we're told, to get underway.
Okay, Fox
we
5,
believe
you
the
guys
doctors are
confirm?
walking up to the microphone. We're hoping to get an update on the injured here. As we've been reporting, 1 person dead, 4 people hurt in this shooting, and those who were injured were taken to Grady, which is, of course, the only level 1 hospital here in the metro area. Let's take a listen. I believe this is a doctor from Dr. Robert Jansen, who is Grady Health System's Chief Medical Officer.
Hello,
Let's take a
everyone.
listen.
So I think everybody's aware that we had a mass shooting down the street. 4 injured people were brought here. No other injuries occurred that we know of, and nobody was taken to the other facility. The 4 that were brought here, 3 are critical. 1 is still in the emergency department. The others are upstairs being treated. 2 in the operating room, and 1 in what's called interventional radiology.
Are you able to describe, I know there aren't HIPAA laws, are you able to describe who they shot? Is that what the suspect was?
No, I can't give out that information, I'm sorry.
How is Grady prepared to handle a mass shooting situation?
So we called mass casualty event. Within minutes, we had multiple trauma surgeons, multiple staff in the trauma bay itself. We cleared out any patients who were currently in the Marcus Trauma Center, and we were fully prepared. We were anticipating up to 12 patients. Fortunately, we only received 4, but we were completely prepared for it. We had all the staff that we needed. We had all the ancillary staff that we needed. We had chaplains there. We had security there. Everyone that was needed was in the place.
And are you guys prepared just in case there are more?
Yes. Yes. We have stopped our mass casualty call now, but we are prepared. We initially stopped visitors because we weren't sure what the shooter is. We are confident now that we can let visitors back in. We never locked the hospital down. We just wanted to stop visitors just in case there was anything going on. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Yeah. So when we activate our mass casualty event, that immediately starts our command center. We bring all the surgeons, all the nurses, all the ancillary staff to the trauma center itself. It goes out over both remotely through phones as well as announced over the loudspeaker. And then we start clearing out operating rooms, and we start clearing out the emergency department in case we need additional space.
I know you can't give us a lot of information that could identify, but can you tell us if these are adults, children, any age ranges?
They're all adults.
Any genders, anything along those lines?
No, I don't have that.
Have their families been notified or anything?
We know that a couple of families are here, but I don't know about the other ones.
You said originally you were preparing for 12.
Yes.
The original call come in that there might be 12 coming?
That's what we heard initially, but I think in any of these situations there's a lot of confusion, as you know.
All right. Thank God. Please,
All right.
guys. Thank you. You guys updated. So the 4 people told the 2 in the operating room.
Oh, so I'm Robert Jansen, I'm the chief medical. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And you've been listening to Grady Health System's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Robert Jansen, giving us an update on the patients taken to Grady. Of course, they are a level 1 trauma center. They treat gunshot wounds, among many other severe injuries. He told us 4 injured brought to Grady. 3 of them right now in critical condition. 1 is still in the emergency department. All of those victims are adults. Right now, 2 of them are in the operating room. 1 is with interventional radiology, more than likely trying to assess their injuries overall. But they said they had everyone in the emergency room that they needed, security, a number of staff there to treat a situation like this. And Rick, they said they were, really staffed up and ready to treat as many as a dozen patients. Fortunately, they only had 4 come through.
Well, just as law enforcement has to prepare for moments like this, and they do prepare, so do hospital staffs, especially if you're a level 1 hospital staff, as those who work at Grady are a part of. And now with the closure of Atlanta Medical Center, the only level 1 trauma center in the vicinity, but they put in, their protocol is to immediately go into what they call a mass casualty event. And as you said, Tracy, they were anticipating up to 12 patients. They only received 4. Of course, 1 is too many, but they didn't receive the number of patients that they were anticipating, but they were prepared for that. All of the trauma surgeons and the staff that specialize in this kind of emergency medicine, emergency response, they were in place immediately within minutes, Dr. Jansen said. And we're taking a look now at live pictures, and you can see the SWAT teams that are still in that area, still a very, very active situation where a shooter has not yet been brought into custody, has not yet been apprehended. We see the police there maneuvering themselves within the perimeter. We've seen some movement here. That might be someone on a gurney being wheeled out.
Gurney, yes.
Perhaps a patient. And we heard from some of the eyewitnesses that Patrick and Zach, our reporters there on the ground, were able to talk to, that they did see a number of people on gurneys, on hospital beds, being wheeled out of the building. Unclear if those patients were involved in this event or if they were just patients who happened to be at the medical center and they were being cleared out as a result of the active shooter situation. I have to imagine that those people who were injured, the 4 that Dr. Jansen just told us about, are still there inside the building. 2 of them, he said, are still in surgery right now.
And, and just watching the video as this all unfolded, to kind of recap for you, this all started at about 12:30 this afternoon, going on 2 hours now that we have this massive presence of first responders in Midtown Atlanta, where we've cordoned off almost a 4-block area there near the 1100 block of West Peachtree Street and Northside Medical Center. That is where the focus is. We've been hearing from a number of witnesses, really, who were in the Northside Medical Building when they said they heard pops. which more than likely will later turn out to be shots being fired. One witness that our own Zach Summers spoke to said, that he was on the 9th floor of the Northside Medical Center building, and they had heard that the shooter was on the 11th floor. And then all of a sudden, people were getting cleared out, doors were being locked. There was a flurry of activity. And this one man helped someone that he didn't even know walk down 9 flights of stairs to get to street level to get to safety.
I believe we're going to hear more stories like that as the afternoon goes on, of people stepping up and stepping in and helping their fellow Atlantan. And it really is. How many times have you been to the doctor's office? You're sitting and waiting to be called back. The television is on. There's a newscast on, and you're just sitting there. This gentleman found out by watching that television newscast that there was a shooting taking place in the very building where he was. In fact, 2 floors above where he was sitting. Just a remarkable story that we heard from KJ Johnson, that gentleman that you mentioned, Tracy, who helped someone, a woman, leave that building and walk down 9 flights of stairs to get to safety.
And we do want to show once again, this is still an active situation, though police have said that it has turned from an active situation to an active investigation right now. We understand they are looking for this man. He is described as a black male wearing a gray hoodie, black pants, brown shoes. Police want you to contact them if you see him. Do not approach him. Police say he is believed to be armed and dangerous. You see a number of images of him there, believed to be from Northside Medical Building. The first one there on the left, him in the elevator, no mask. You can see a little bit better image of his face, and then subsequently images, one appears to be him raising his arm with a gun, possibly firing shots, and the other images of him with a mask on his face. Again, black male, gray hoodie, black pants, brown shoes. Police are still looking for him. At this point, we do not believe police have him in custody yet. They have not told us that they have him in custody, so we are still looking for him there. Our very own Patrick Quinn, he's at street level right now, really assessing the scene there. A number of people locked out of their offices, locked out of their homes, and really trying to figure out where to go. But Patrick, you've been on the ground since the very beginning. What are you seeing now?
It's a really trying situation here, Tracy, still, and we're going to zoom in just a little bit. This ambulance that you're going to look at just about a block away, we just saw a woman on a gurney walked over with 2 professionals on either side. She was rolled into this ambulance. It's a Grady Health ambulance, and no doubt it will be coming this way, heading towards us on its way to Grady Health. It's still very much a trying scene. We have seen a lot of health professionals walk out of Northside Medical and that facility there over the last 10 or 15 minutes. They had been evacuating the building floor by floor, and I was able to talk with the nurse. She was a very traumatic scene with her as she was trying to relay all that happened with her. They were getting very little information on the inside, text messages from people. You can imagine the panic that they were going through. This building, in fact, my doctor's office is inside this building. There are different medical offices and specialists on each floor. So while we are hearing that potentially the shooting happened on the 11th floor, I've been talking with people who are on the 2nd, 3rd, the 9th floor, all of which just trying to cope with all the emotions of a very active situation. But again, we just saw a woman rolled out on a gurney, and she was placed into this Grady Health ambulance. At this point, according to Atlanta police, 1 person was shot and killed on scene. And then we just heard an update from Grady Health as they're still trying to get a better understanding of how many are injured and the status of those involved. Guys, back to you.
Patrick, thank you. We do have a name that we can report now. This is according to the Atlanta Police Department. The name of the suspect in this case is Dion Patterson, with a date of birth of October 1998. He is considered to be 24 years old, considered armed and dangerous. Atlanta police saying, do not approach him. If you see him, do not approach him. Again, Dion Patterson, 24 years old. Let's go to Tori Cooper. She is down on 12th Street with an eyewitness. Tori.
Rick. I'm standing here with Eddie, and as you can see, we're right in front of this Atlanta Police Department SWAT vehicle. But Eddie witnessed some of this event as it was transpiring. I'm going to turn it over to Eddie so we can really just get his account, because he did share some video with us that we will get to later in the show. But let's paint this for our viewers, this chaotic scene at Northside Hospital. You were there. Talk us through what you saw.
All right, so we were at work, and there was cop cars everywhere, and our boss told us that there was an active shooter. So he was like, hey, either you get out of the building or you go inside and you get stuck inside. So we ran out, and we went into the parking garage, and as we were in the parking garage, the SWAT team ran in, and they asked me for my ID, pulled a gun on me, asked me for my ID, and then they described the shooter and whatnot, and then took me out of my car, and then led us down the sidewalk into another building adjacent. And in there, when I was in there, was nurses in there, and they were crying, talking about they witnessed the event and whatnot. And after that, I just left.
Yeah, and so we're going to walk you through a little bit more of that, because you said earlier to me that they pulled you aside because they thought you were the suspect.
Right, yeah, they said I was dressed like the suspect, so I guess he was wearing, from even when I saw on TV, he was wearing a black hoodie, and I guess he looked just like me with a mask. So at first they thought it was me, and that's why they pulled me out of their car.
Okay, and then that is something very traumatic for anyone. You were working construction inside of the park, right by Northside Hospital, and that's why you were pretty much next to the building, in the building, and that's why you were able to get that video. Can you talk us through what the emotion in the room when police were talking with the nurses and trying to calm them down?
It was actually really sad. All the nurses were crying, and they said it actually happened at the Northside Hospital parking deck, and that's the one I was actually in. So they said he was in there while I was in there. So, I mean, that was kind of scary after the fact.
And so to see this happen in your very community, this is something that you see on the news all the time, but to be a part of it in a way where police think you are the suspect, talk about that.
Yeah, it was actually pretty surreal. I mean, never thought it would ever happen to me, but, I mean, it was pretty surreal. So, it was scary.
And this is your community that you live in every day, and did you ever think you'd be a part of anything like this?
Never in a million years thought it would ever happen here.
All right. Well, thank you, Eddie. We really appreciate it. And again, we're going to be getting that video to you that Eddie shot himself during these moments. It shows the nurses in front of police, and the staff, as you could tell, was very, very emotional based off what Eddie told us. And we'll let you get that video, and as soon as we do, we'll share it with you right here on Atlanta News First. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Tori, thank you for that. Remarkable to hear that young man say that at one point during all of this, the chaos, he was pulled out of a car by police, thinking perhaps that he was the suspect. Of course, he is not, but it just gives you a sense of the urgency. Police officers there trying to locate this suspect, Dion Patterson, 24 years old, and you can see in that picture from the elevator on the far left, you see that face pretty clearly. Again, if you see him, do not approach him. He is considered armed and dangerous.
And this is a story, Rick, getting nationwide attention right now. A number of people across the country, you know, they've been contacting their loved ones if they know they live or work in Atlanta or Midtown Atlanta, making sure they are okay. Friends here are asking me, making sure I'm okay, since our offices are not far from Midtown Atlanta as well. We want to give you a recap here because this has been unfolding for more than 2 hours now in Midtown. Around 12:30, police receiving a call about an active shooter situation there in Midtown. Right now, 4 people injured, taken to Grady Hospital, 3 of them critical, 1 still in the emergency room, 1 person killed, 1 fatality reported so far, a total of 5 people injured in this active shooting situation. Atlanta News First, Zach Summers, he's down on the ground for us. Zach, what are you seeing right now?
Well, things are starting to clear out a bit here, Tracy. Police have acknowledged that this is turned from an active shooter situation to now an active investigation as they actively look for the person responsible for shooting 5 people here in Midtown earlier today. One of those people dying here at Northside Hospital. We are anticipating to hear from Atlanta Police here soon. We've been waiting, but you know, they have their own. They're investigating. They are following leads, and we know that they're going to update the media and the public once they have gathered more facts. But we are anticipating hearing from them. But here at 12th and Peachtree, which, as you see, is right in direct eyesight of the hospital, a much different scene from what we saw just a couple of hours ago when we got here around 12:30, and you saw police in heavy, right like that, right in front of me, as you see right there. But they were actively looking for this person who they believed was inside Northside Hospital at the time. We don't know if this suspect, well, we know he's at large, but it'll be interesting to hear from police how this person may have gotten out of the hospital. And there's plenty of questions that will need to be answered. And again, we're waiting to hear that update from Atlanta Police. But out here live, the scene is calm, but we know police are still actively looking for this person. As I said, it was a much different scene just a couple of hours ago as we saw patients being rushed out of the hospital, many of them crying and frustrated and scared. People just eating out here earlier today, and then they're forced to be locked in because they've been told there's an active shooter at the nearby medical center. Things have calmed down a bit, but you know, the situation is still very much serious as police continue to look for this person. But, you know, I will tell you, the buildings here in Midtown, we were as far away as Peachtree and 14th. That's a block or so from here, and buildings were going into lockdown. My photographer, Sam, he tells me he got a message from Atlanta Public Schools telling him that Maynard, the school that his children go to, that's on lockdown, that's in Glenwood. So that just shows you the scope of, you know, of how far-reaching this is. This is Midtown, that's Glenwood, but APS taking the precaution to lock down their schools as police continue to look for this shooter who they say shot 5 people inside Northside Hospital. One of those people losing their life today.
Thank you for the update, Zach. We are getting some more information now about this investigation that is going on. Police telling Atlanta News First that they're aware of a vehicle that was carjacked from 14th Street and Williams Street not long after the shooting. This vehicle, again, this is from the police telling Atlanta News First, the vehicle has been recovered by law enforcement in Cobb County, and they are working right now to try to determine whether this vehicle is connected to the shooting in any way. So again, not long after the shooting taking place, reports of a carjacking from very close to the site of the shooting, 14th and Williams. That car is now being investigated by police, law enforcement in Cobb County, going through that vehicle to determine if it had anything to do with this or was involved perhaps as a method of helping the suspect get away from the scene. We don't know, but again, that vehicle is in police custody.
Our own Patrick Quinn, he is speaking to someone right now who witnessed much of this. Let's listen in.
It's a medical building. So there is an outpatient surgery center on one floor. There's a bunch of doctors' offices and other practices on the floors below.
And do you get which floor do you work on? And from your understanding, how close was that to where some of the action was?
So I'm not sure exactly. I think it was the 11th floor he was on, and I'm usually the floor above that, which is where they do some of the operations there, just very small, minor surgeries, nothing major.
You're a drug or medical equipment rep?
Yes, I'm a device rep. So I was just coming to check one of their machines actually today. I wasn't supposed to be here today, but just coming in to check something.
What's your name?
Cassidy Hale.
What's your last name?
H-A-L-E. Cassidy Hale.
So Cassidy, again, you're a medical rep, so you were going into that office where that shooting happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was pretty strange. When she told me, she was like, "We're under whatever the code is," and she was like, "Are you aware of what that is?" And I didn't know. She was like, "There's an active shooter. Go back, get in your car, and just stay there." So got back in my car, stayed there, and they kind of were scaling the whole garage and checking each car, and they were like, "Come with us," and I was ushered out.
Have you heard, do you know any of the victims? Or?
I don't. I'd asked a few people, and no one really, everybody on the outside kind of knew more than us. They weren't really feeding us anything, so.
How do you,
put this into words. I mean, you're just doing your job. It's a random Wednesday. And literally, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy. You know, living in Atlanta, we definitely hear of things like this happening all the time. It's, you know, when I pulled into the garage, I saw the fire trucks and everything on the other entrance side and thought nothing of it. I was like, I bet something's going on. And when I got to the elevator and it wouldn't let me buzz in, I was like, there must be like a fire drill or something happening. It didn't even cross my mind.
From talking with coworkers, panic? What was the scene like just going up and
Yeah.
down?
I think everybody was just really in shock. I think everyone's trying to process what's going on. And like I said, I wasn't in the building, so I can't speak for them, and I can't imagine what they're, you know, going through emotionally. But it was definitely a little chaotic. And
How long were you hunkered down in your car before they gave you the all clear?
it was probably about 15-ish minutes. And then when they came, it was me and another guy were in the garage together, and they ushered us out, and then we went across the street.
In your car or standing outside?
I was in so I had originally parked, got out, was going into the building, and the elevator's not working. I was like, that's weird. And then they told me to whoever I called told me to get back in my car.
Have you taken a breath and realized what happened?
Yeah.
What's the emotion like?
It's really really surreal. You know, like I said, I feel like you hear about this all the time, and it doesn't, you know, cross your mind that, you could be in this situation. It's really
Part of what
really
makes
wild.
it so surreal is it's at a medical facility. You said you didn't know the code the language they were giving you. But what does this potentially say? I mean, we're still trying to discover really what happened. They're looking for the shooter. The climate that we're in right now, the fact that there are codes that you do or do not know, I mean, what does that say just to you?
Yeah, well, that's pretty standard for device reps. You know, we don't know all the coding that they use in these facilities, and some places are different. But I think communication was there. You know, she was like, this is the code, this is what you need to do, get in your car, stay there. And it was fair enough from there.
Did you have any colleagues inside, and what have they been telling you?
I didn't. You know, I work with a lot of the people in the operating room up there, but none of my direct colleagues. Yeah.
What do you think you're going to feel like the next time you need to call on this surgery center?
It'll definitely be really shocking and an intense feeling, I think, but you just got to keep trucking along. People need you in there. So.
Sorry, did you say what kind of office that is? I mean, it's a doctor's office. But you
All
know
right,
what
we
kind
have
of
been
practice
listening.
it is in there?
We have been listening to an eyewitness. This is.
So a couple OBGYNs. I'm not sure what the other offices
We've been
are
listening
there,
to
but
an
there is
eyewitness, a young woman who works in the building as a medical device rep, who just happened to be at that building today as part of her regular everyday work routine when all of a sudden she was told of this active shooter situation. And you heard her describe going back to her car and sitting and waiting for the all clear. Again, this suspect is still at large. As far as we know, police have not yet apprehended him, but there he is on the screen right now. We are told that he is 28-year-old Dion Patterson, and we did just get word of a carjacking investigation that could potentially be involved, a part of this situation in Midtown. Again, police telling us of a vehicle that was carjacked from 14th and Williams Street not long after the shooting, and that vehicle has been recovered. It is now in police custody. Law enforcement have it in Cobb County. Again, we're still waiting to determine, police are waiting to determine if, in fact, that vehicle had anything to do with this shooting. And there is another picture, a more clear picture of Dion Patterson, the suspect who has been named in this shooting, who is still at large. We're told that he has a date of birth of 1998, which makes him about 24 years old. Again, he is still at large, considered armed and dangerous. Police saying if you come in contact with him, if you see this man, you are asked to stay away. Again, let's check in with Tori Cooper. She is live on the scene now. And Tori, you've been talking to eyewitnesses, and I understand you've gotten your hands on some new video that you can show us.
So, Rick, as you know, we live in a digital age, and sometimes getting video back to you guys is tough. So that's why I'm going to show it to you right now on my phone. Viewers can peek up, look at your screen. This is from an eyewitness who shared this account with us. This is video that I'm going to let play out now. Let me get a little closer. Let's see if we can get a little closer there. Joe, you got it? Yep. We got it? Okay, we're going to play this out, and what you're going to see is SWAT officers storming into the building as this was happening. The witness that we spoke to says that these are the moments as this was transpiring. He was inside of the parking deck. And then now I'm going to scroll to another video because this video really caught our attention. Can you see this? You can see this? Okay. So what you will see in this video is a police officer debriefing the nurses inside the room, and he's telling them that they are going floor by floor looking for the suspect in question. And on top of that, additionally, he talks about, if any of you were on the 11th floor, I need you to step on the left-hand side of the room. If you were not on the 11th floor, I need you to go on the other side of the room. And that's because I just checked in with the witness who gave me this video, who was in the room with the nurses. He says the reason he was having these nurses move to either side of the room was because the 11th floor is where they believe he was running around in the parking deck. So now I'm going to zoom in because this is some other video that we got. And this is video of people evacuating the hospital that the witness was able to obtain. I'm going to zoom back. I'm going to go rewind a little bit really quick just so you guys can see that. It's a little dark on my phone, but hold on. Here we go. Can you see that, Joe? Okay, hold on. Here we go. You'll see people filing out. Well, there's at least 5 or 6 people that were filing out of the hospital in this video. But again, I'm going to paint this picture for you because what he had said to us, you can zoom back out now, just to bring you to the scene now of what you're seeing. This is very much an active scene. We have a SWAT car right here from the Atlanta Police Department. I spoke to a witness who had talked about the fact that police pulled him aside, but now you were able to see some video of police really trying to keep the nurses calm. The witness that I spoke to had said that the nurses were crying. They were very emotional, as you can imagine, and now we're learning some more information from this video because now we're told that police were at one time searching the 11th floor of the north side parking deck of the north side hospital. So now what I'm going to do is we are hearing that there is someone that may be able to communicate with us from inside the building. So I'm going to be calling that person. If I hear anything that is worthy of sharing, we'll see if she is able to get to safety. We'll share it with you right here on Atlanta News First. Back to you.
Tori Cooper, excellent. Thank you very much for that and those pictures, that video telling the story of the police response, which we understand was very swift. We can now tell you that the shelter in place in Midtown has been lifted. The shelter in place has been lifted. We do not have any additional update on the status of the suspect. We know that that police have been searching for him. Dion Patterson is his name, and we're getting a clearer idea of who this man is. There is a $10,000 reward, we're being told now, for information leading to the apprehension of Dion Patterson. So clear that he has not yet been apprehended, although police evidently feeling comfortable enough to lift the shelter in place in Midtown. So we have to learn why they would do that if in fact the suspect is still at large. Perhaps they are aware of the fact that he has moved to a different location and is no longer in this area. That's speculation at this point. We do not know. But video that we just watched and listened to from Tori Cooper confirming what we had heard from one of the eyewitnesses that we spoke with earlier in the hour, saying that he was on the 9th floor when he heard the sounds of popping about 2 floors above him on the 11th floor. He described it as a few popping sounds, and that is when the waiting area that he was waiting in for a loved one who was undergoing a procedure at the time, they asked everyone to clear, and he was able to help an elderly woman get down a flight of stairs to get her to safety. Again, we're going to be hearing a lot of stories over the next several hours about people coming to help and aid their fellow Atlantans, and that's what people do in situations like this. That's what Atlantans do in situations like this. The update on the casualties: 1 dead at the scene, 4 others injured and brought to Grady Hospital. We heard from the chief medical officer at Grady, Dr. Robert Jansen, that 3 of those who were injured are in critical condition. 2 of them are in surgery right now. Again, we are waiting for an update on the status of the search for the suspect in this case, but we are told that the shelter-in-place order in Midtown has been lifted. So that is some promising news. Don't know how quickly things are going to get back to normal, though. Probably a smart idea to stay away from the area if you can. If you're not in this Midtown area, you don't want to go there. Now is not the time to go. Police setting up a perimeter here as they sweep this building looking for the suspect. This is something that police train for. In fact, the training facility that is under construction right now, this is a facility that is being constructed specifically to train law enforcement for situations like this, where they recreate urban landscapes and areas, giving police an opportunity to train and be prepared for an event like this when it takes place. I think we're going to go back out onto the scene. Megan Packer is standing by at Grady Hospital. And Megan, we heard from the chief medical officer just a short time ago about those who were brought to Grady. What more can you tell us?
And Rick, we learned that there are 4 patients here at Grady being treated, 3 of them in critical condition. I'll show you what it looks like right now outside of the ER. It is quiet out here right now. We are not seeing a law enforcement presence. We do know, though, from that chief medical officer at Grady that there are family members inside with at least some of these injured patients. Dr. Robert Jansen tells us, again, 3 people are in critical condition. 2 of them are in the operating room. A third is in interventional radiology, so likely getting checked out right now, looking for any injuries internally with that. A 4th person still in the emergency room here. But just like police prepare for something like this hospital prepares for something like this. Dr. Jansen says within minutes they went into all hands on deck mode. They had multiple trauma surgeons, multiple staff, all going to the same area. 1 person is stable, we understand right now at this point as well. That is just coming into us. But they put an all hands on deck situation here. They cleared out anybody that did not need immediate treatment. All 4 of these people getting treated at Grady are adults, we are told. They briefly stopped visitors from coming into the hospital. The hospital never went on lockdown here at Grady, but just until they kind of got their hands around what was going on, they did prevent visitors from coming into the hospital. Visitors can come in right now. They were originally prepared, Rick, to treat 12 patients, if not more. But again, they just got 4. But they say they are ready. They are on standby. And this was certainly an all hands on deck mass trauma situation here at Grady, level 1 trauma center. So they are more than well prepared to handle something like this. And we will stay in touch with them, and hopefully they will come out and continue to give us an update on the status of the people they are treating here right now.
Megan Packer live for us in front of the emergency room entrance at Grady Hospital. Megan, thank you. We'll check back with you. We have an update on some information that we reported a few moments ago about a carjacking. This is an update to that information. We had told you that there was a carjacking at 14th and William Street that took place not long after the shooting. We initially told you that that vehicle had been recovered by police in Cobb County. There is a change to that report, though. Police now telling us that vehicle has not been recovered. Again, we don't know whether this vehicle had anything to do with the shooting or helped the suspect to get away in any way, shape, or form. But we had told you, because police had told us, that the vehicle was recovered. They're now saying that vehicle has not been recovered. And there is the suspect. You can see him there on the screen. And we're going to be learning more about Dion Patterson as police continue their search for him. They have not yet apprehended him, but just within the last few minutes, as we cross the top of the hour, 3 o'clock now here in Metro Atlanta, police lifting the shelter-in-place order in Midtown. So those are the main developments, but let's get you caught up now. If you're just joining us at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, that turned into anything but a routine day here in Midtown Atlanta, not far from the Atlanta News First studios. There were reports of shots fired at 12:30 p.m., so about 2.5 hours ago. All of this began at 1110 West Peachtree Street, which is the Northside Family Medicine and Urgent Care building. Again, this is West Peachtree between 12th and 13th Street. There were reports of an active shooter situation. And that's the way it stayed for quite some time, as buildings in the area, apartment buildings, schools, businesses were all put on lockdown, and a shelter in place was issued. And so we saw police officers entering into that building, SWAT teams going into the medical building looking for that suspect. As far as we know, that suspect has not yet been apprehended, but we do know his name, Dion Patterson, a 24-year-old black male who is still at large as police look to find him. I'm Rick Folbaum. Tracy Hutchins here with me as we've been covering this story. And Tracy, you were here from the start.
Right, and just watching this develop. And Rick, this is something the entire nation is watching. We know, covering the news, covering a number of news stories, when this happens, it gets our attention. Unfortunately, happens all too often. We're getting word from our Washington bureau, that Senator Raphael Warnock, he may be heading to the Senate floor right now and will speak about this shooting. Certainly, Senator Jon Ossoff is aware. He has posted a comment on social media as well, telling people to, of course, be as safe as they can, to remain sheltered in place. But again, getting word from our Washington bureau, our partners there in the nation's capital, saying Senator Warnock team, his team hints that he may be heading to the Senate floor right now to speak about yet another mass shooting in our nation, this time hitting very close to home for us in Midtown Atlanta. And Rick, as you mentioned, one person dead, unfortunately, a total of 5 people injured in this active shooting situation in Midtown that has been developing and certainly interrupted a number of people's days. Of course, here, everyone's safety is paramount, and that's why police have really lengthened this perimeter, widened it out to make sure people remain as safe as possible. The entire area there in Midtown, that lockdown has been lifted, but certainly there are a number of first responder vehicles on the scene there. I wouldn't advise anyone to go in that area if you don't have to. We saw a number of people earlier today who couldn't get back into their apartments, back into their condos, because everyone who was in was locked in. No one else was getting into those buildings. Schools, including the Goddard School, which is right there on Spring Street, they were sheltering in place. No one in or out. We will hopefully get an update from them very soon. Certainly some people with their children at Goddard School, leaving for the day. Hopefully those parents are able to get their kids and get them home safely for the day.
Atlanta Public Schools sending out a message to parents urging them to please stay at home. This is an update that was issued by APS at around 2:35 this afternoon, and it reads, APS community, until we receive confirmation that the suspect in the Midtown shooting is contained, Midtown and Washington clusters, along with Stanton Elementary, King, Wesley International, and Dunbar, will hold on dismissal. So important information for parents who are, of course, very concerned about their children. We are going to keep you updated as we learn more about the situation with APS. Patrick Quinn is on the ground gathering information for us. Patrick, what do you know?
And Rick, Midtown High School, less than a mile from where I'm standing right now. Let's set the scene. We're about a block and a half away from where Northside Medical is, just past that fire engine, just past that stoplight. On the right is Northside Medical. There's a medical facilities on a number of floors, roughly 10 or 15 floors, and we've talked with medical professionals who've been working on the 2nd, 3rd, 9th floor. They've had to be evacuated. We've seen ambulances come and go. We've seen a SWAT unit just within the last 5 minutes drive onto the scene. So still an active scene. I will say it is less tense, and I'm going to have my photographer pan all the way around just to continue to set the scene. The MARTA station right here, and if we continue to pan about 2 blocks on the left, an apartment complex there. If you remember, less than a year ago, there was another active shooter situation right here in this community, just about a block up to the left. A woman shot 3 people there before she fled the area. She was eventually captured at the airport. So this community, those who live and work in this area, they're very familiar with this situation, with the intensity, with some of the fear that so much have felt over the last 2.5 hours. And again, what we know is that one person was shot and killed on scene. Four others were taken to Grady Health, where we did just hear 3 are still in critical condition. We're continuing to monitor things here, very active here. The shooter, as you mentioned, still at large. They're still looking for that person. And a lot of people who live and work in this area, remember this happened midday, lunchtime, frantic scene. They're still coming to terms with what happened, processing. Do we go back to work? Do we not go back to work? Can we meet up with friends? You just mentioned how schools are handling the situation. So we're really monitoring things here as we're still continuing to see a presence, a smaller presence, but a presence nonetheless, as this active shooter situation continues to play out. Police reminding those that it's no longer an active shooter situation, but rather an active investigation is where they are in terms of how they're handling the scene here. Guys, back to you.
Certainly frighteningly familiar, Patrick. Thank you. We do want to get everyone the information as we continue to search for this active shooter in Midtown Atlanta. Police giving us new information about that person's name, their age as well. If we can show those images once again, this is the suspect that police are looking for, 24-year-old Dion Patterson. This is a much better image of him. Earlier this afternoon, police releasing images of what he was wearing at the time of the shooting. That included a gray hoodie, black pants, brown shoes. At one point, he was masked as well with a kind of a backpack kind of slung across the front of him. Here are those images that we are talking about. You can certainly see the similarities between that single shot there of Dion Patterson and these images here, one of him on the elevator earlier in the day. We're still waiting to hear from police what his connection is to Northside Hospital. Don't know if he was there for treatment, don't know if he was there with a friend, family member, what exactly that is. Now, in the meantime, Atlanta police really asking us for patience. They are going to try and get us as much information as they can, as quickly as they can. But what is paramount here, Alan, as we know, is the search and capture of this shooting suspect.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, the thing is, we have a description of the suspect, and we can show you his photo, as we've been doing all afternoon here. And we mentioned what he was wearing at the time of the shooting. You're looking at what he was wearing. Tracy, there's a chance he could have changed clothes. He could have changed his appearance in any way. So when we show you that man's face, that is what you guys need to keep your eyes on. Don't tie so deeply into the gray hoodie or the face mask. This is a man who is attempting to avoid police, avoid us recognizing him. So keep that in mind as you go on about your day here in Atlanta, here in Midtown, or any of these surrounding cities or counties. That is what is important. This man could be anywhere at this point. Now, I want to go from anywhere to right at the scene right now. Zach Summers, Atlanta News First Zach Summers, who's been covering this since we first got word of the shooting hours ago, is there right by the scene. So, Zach, we've been seeing a little bit of progress through this evening as police continue to slowly make their activities smaller in that area. What can you tell us right now as this investigation now moves forward?
They're actively looking for the shooter, who Atlanta police tell us
scrubs. You can see some more doctors right there, right behind the SWAT car right there. So we have seen a number of people in blue scrubs, doctors, nurses, walking up and down Peachtree Street. You can imagine this has been very difficult for them. This is not what they expected to show up to when they went to work today. I also spoke to a patient on the phone that our news director helped connect me with. She was on the 8th floor, and she says that she was held up there for a number of hours because of what was going on, and she did make it home, but she says that she was just there for a checkup, and she can't believe that this is happening at a hospital, that this is where people who are vulnerable are going in our community, and for someone to take advantage of that and to go inside and do that was heartbreaking for her. And so we're going to do everything we can to gather some more information from this scene. I imagine some residents in this apartment complex right here are really going to have some spectacular video for us to see when all of this continues to transpire. But we're going to make sure that we share the very latest with you right here on the ground. Back to you guys.
Tori, I want to keep you here with us for a second, if you can still hear me. West Peachtree is one of the veins of our city, one of the main arteries of Midtown Atlanta. And I know you haven't been there as long as Zach and Patrick out there on the scene, but you already kind of talking about how they're now moving you, I should say, or at least moving you from where you are in regards to this scene. There was a time, there was a lull where we weren't seeing as much police activity. Can you walk us through how, since you've been there, it seems like things have really started to pick up, starting with Zach and now the SWAT team responding on your end, and now you possibly having to move from where you are?
That's right, and this is very much transpiring quickly. It goes from being completely quiet to now all of a sudden you see police officers flooding down the street, SWAT officers jumping into their car to go to the Peachtree Street and turn right, and then you have MARTA police officers there. We have an extra SWAT car there. They are really starting to focus their energy to the right-hand side of the street. I'm going to go around the block, and I'm going to try to see if I can get another vantage point for you guys so that we can show what police are focusing their energy on. We have pedestrians on the street now as well, looking to the right of them because they are also focusing their energy on what police are doing to investigate. And you know, there's this caution tape here, Alan. It's, you know, it's wrapped up. It's really hard. I don't want to, you know, go past it right now because this is an active investigation, and as the media, we have to respect investigators as they do what they do to gather information for the public. They do wait. They do have someone, it appears, at the top of the SWAT vehicle that's on top of it. It's kind of hard to see from back here, but I'm going to, again, try to get a better vantage point so I can show you what police are focusing their energy on. There was at least 6 cop cars I saw, and then we saw 2 SWAT vehicles go to the right, but they're not far from me, Alan, so I'm going to go around, and then we'll check back in with you guys.
All right, Tori, thank you. And as always, stay safe out there. Our entire Atlanta News First crew out there on the scene, continuing to bring us these live updates from the ground as this man-wide, what could be a citywide, what could very well be a statewide manhunt for this man right here, Deon Patterson. It continues to roll on here as we reach 3:24 this Wednesday evening. And Tracy, we continue to preach this, and I don't think we can say it enough, that while this scene right here remains active and they've got their caution tape up really in people's minds, everywhere should be an active scene at this time because we simply do not know where this man is.
No, we don't. And actually just getting word right now, Alan, that police will brief the media shortly. We are expecting that momentarily in that area of West Midtown. So hopefully we will get an indication that the shooter has moved out of this area and they are now actively looking someplace else, that shelter in place mandate had been lifted a short time ago, even though those streets are still blocked off. Again, if you plan to travel in the Midtown area, try to avoid it altogether. If you are in one of those condo buildings, apartment buildings, your home is in the area, stay inside, stay safe right now. Follow us on social media. What you're watching right now, that is the safest place for you to be until we know exactly where this shooter is and police have him in custody. We want to show you that image once again of Deon Patterson, 24 years old. Police are actively looking for Patterson. There he is. That is an image of him. That is his picture that we were able to gather, that police gave us later this afternoon. Now, earlier they gave us images of him in the building in a gray hoodie, black pants, brown shoes. in order to give you, the viewer, if you had seen him, if someone knows him, knows where he may be, can pinpoint the location. These are the images of him in that building just before the shooting, during the shooting as well, that police want you to be aware of. Right now, it is good to know Crime Stoppers is offering a $10,000 reward in order to catch this man. Here's something else, Alan, that we've just learned. Right now, Senator Raphael Warnock, as we know, this story has gone nationwide, all across the country. Senator Warnock on the floor of the Senate right now, talking about this shooting right here in Midtown Atlanta. Senator Warnock is talking about calling on the Senate to take action to curb the nation's gun violence crisis following yet another mass shooting, this time in Atlanta. Again, as I mentioned, the nation is watching. This has happened yet again. 5 people in all, victims from today's shooting. 1 person has died. 4 other people in the hospital, 2 in critical condition, 1 still in the emergency department right now. So, you know, it is unfortunate, Alan, that yet again we have to talk about someone going into a building, people who were unsuspecting. You said, you know, they are there trying to get treatment. They're there along with their family members, their friends. It's just a regular Wednesday for them.
Exactly.
They did not expect to be put in this situation, essentially in some ways feeling like they are fighting for their lives in order to get out of that building to get to safety.
Exactly. A hospital is already a scary place just because you have so many people that are dealing with health ailments walking into that building. Think about you guys at home. Think about when you are in a place where you have to visit your doctor or go in for surgery. What's in your mind at that time? You're already nervous, you're already anxious, but you're being given world-class care by some of the most well-trained professionals that we could ask for here in Atlanta. And then you are subject to something like this. Something like this, where shots are being fired either on your floor or directly above you or directly below you, and your entire day changes. Nobody in this situation woke up this morning, just like you and I and Tracy, just like you. Nobody woke up this morning thinking that this was how their day was gonna go. And if you really put that into perspective, that can show you how scary this is. Now, we pulled some numbers here at Atlanta News First, our Atlanta News First entire team, the investigative team as well, working around the clock to get more details and put this into perspective for you guys as we pull details from the gun violence archive. And Tracy, you might have mentioned this earlier. We've had around 190 mass shootings in our country so far this year. It's May. We just got to May, and we have 190. And as Senator Warnock speaks on the floor, Georgia has accounted for 10 of those mass shootings, including the mass shooting here today, where we do know at least 1 person is dead and 4 others shot by this gunman, a gunman who at this time still unaccounted for, still could be anywhere, could be there in Midtown, could be in any of our neighboring counties, because if you have shots fired, what's going on about 3 hours at this point, Tracy, think about how far you can travel in a vehicle in 3 hours times. So if you are hearing this, you need to be sure you are paying close attention to what is happening. So
Atlanta News First starts now with breaking news.
Here on Atlanta News First, I'm Tracy Hutchins along with my colleague Alan Devlin. We are following breaking news happening right now in Midtown Atlanta. It is a story we have been following for the last 3 hours now.